That was great, wasn't it? Yeah, give it a hand, guys. All right, so this next team, every single week they brought me a new build to their game, and I was always so like just astounded by some kind of feature or something a little nitpicky that I was just like, wow, this is crazy. This is just amazing. This is the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. So without further ado, here's Eris.
All right, I'm going to just start off and say that unfortunately our presentation will not be nearly as punny as the last one, but hopefully just as enjoyable. I don't know how you did that. All right, so I want to thank you guys all for coming out here. Apparently somebody brought bad weather with them. We all had to deal with it. Anyone want to fess up? No? All right. Right there? All right. So if you want to blame someone, that person right there with the hand up, she's the reason we're all wet. But anyway, we are Team Avalanche, and we're here to present our game. Over on the left, we have Alex Oswalt, Cory Stephens, Jose Aponte. Behind me is Chef Ramirez, and my name is Jim Casale. And we're here to present our game, Eris. Eris is a first-person shooter where you are playing as a newly recruited space marine in the space station named Eris. And what happens is the more veteran troops have just left on a mission, and you're just guarding the space station, and a bunch of aliens attack you. So you need to figure out how to survive while you wait for reinforcements. The first thing that you do is you call back the troops, and they tell you that it'll take them exactly 8 minutes to get back to the space station. In that time, you must protect the power core, which is what the aliens are trying to steal, and protect yourself, but you're not armed very much. You're armed with just their basic blaster rifle and your impulse glove, and together with that, you must defend the space station, because you're the only one that can protect it. So there are a couple of defenses that are available in the station itself. The one that is the most important is the overcharge. It's a last-ditch effort that the station has that can obliterate all the life in the space station. So it'll be your last resort to try to curb the alien invasion. There are a couple of environmental objects that you can also interact with. First is the windows. The windows you can shoot out and they'll explode and suck everything out into the abyss of space. So you need to make sure that you're not close to them, but it'll be very important to dispatch large groups of aliens. The second environmental object we have is a nitrogen tank. When you shoot those, they'll also explode and freeze all nearby enemies. So it's good to use that to stop them from advancing. And the last thing that you have is the doors. The blast doors, when they're triggered, will slam down and obstruct the path of everything that's trying to go down the hallway, which buys you a lot of time. However, it's not a permanent solution. Enemies can destroy it, and the bigger the enemy is, the faster it falls. And now to talk about the enemies, I'm going to pass it off to Jeff.
So, as you can see here, this is our first enemy. He's the smallest enemy in our game, and his name is the Retriever. His job is to get on the ship, take your core pieces, and get out as fast as possible. Our next enemy is the Swarmer. His job is to provide a distraction for all the other creatures in our game, and he does this by he attacks any hostile life forms he encounters. As you can see now, we have the Flyer. His job is to also take the core pieces. However, he is not defenseless, and he will attack anything he deems a threat. And to top it all off, upon death, he will explode. The final enemy is the Tank. He's the juggernaut of the creatures. His job is to get to the core and take as many pieces as possible. And as you can tell from his size, that's quite a lot. And also, he will destroy anything that's in his path, including the player. And now to tell you how we made this all possible, here's Jose Aponte to talk about tech.
Thank you, Jeff. The first piece of technology we developed to make our game look good, it was the pair rendering. This is a technique that instead of rendering everything directly into screen, we just separate all the properties of the objects and draw them separately, and then we combine them together to have a final result. In our case, in our game, we render first the depth of the objects, then we have the color of the objects, next is the normals, and finally we have the specular aspect of the objects. Then finally we combine everything, apply the lighting, and we have this final scene with all the lightings. To put it in different words, everybody loves sandwiches, right? Well, imagine these are the different pieces of a sandwich, the ham, the cheese, the bread, and then we put it all together to have this awesome, delicious sandwich. Why do you do it? We did this because we wanted so many lights in our game to make the game look good. We all love colors, lighting, and this all allowed us to reduce the amount of time for the rendering calls. Also, we wanted to apply the soft particles effect, which we can see here in the left image, how there's artifacts that the particles are colliding with the environment, but we applied the soft particles, and then in the right image, we can see how the particles are smoothed down throughout the environment. But this next piece is not a sandwich or delicious or anything, so I'm going to pass it to Cory to keep talking.
Thanks, Ethan. So our next piece of tech we're going to talk about is spatial partitioning, more specifically a bounding volume hierarchy. What this is basically is it allows us to break down our level into very small contained sections. We then use these sections to check collision against before actually checking against the objects within the sections. Essentially, this allows us to reduce the overall amount of collision checks at runtime. And the main reason we use this is because we have a lot of complex collisions in our game. Most notably, the player colliding with the level, as well as shooting the level and leaving decals on the surface. Without implementing the BVH, we would have run into a lot of frame rate issues, and this allowed us to avoid that. However, this wasn't our only challenge we ran into. So to talk about the rest we ran into during the development process, I'm going to pass it off to Alex Oswalt.
Alright, with every project, there are things that are bound to go wrong. The first thing that went wrong was we lost a teammate in the first month of production. This caused us to have to re-plan the whole schedule for the coming months of development. The second thing that went wrong was our particle system. Due to losing a teammate early on and us focusing on game priorities, we were not able to develop a tool for our particle system. So whenever it came to particles, it was a slow process. The last thing that went wrong was our performance issues. During development, we hit some lag or drops in frame rate, and that would cause our game to be unplayable. With the help of tools, we were able to solve these. But things also went right. The first thing that went right was our game features. We were actually able to implement all the game features that we had planned to from the beginning. The second thing that went right was our feedback. Patrick Kelly, Chris Ducote, JC Park, and Mike Clevo gave us great feedback that made the game 10 times better. And then the last thing that went right was we stuck with our vision. As you can see in our concept here, and when we play the game later, our game will look very similar to what we had planned in the beginning. But enough about making the sandwich. Who's ready to actually eat the sandwich? Let's play the game. I'm going to pass it off to Jim while he narrates while Jose plays.
Thanks, Alex. I don't need the clicker. All right, everyone. Are you excited? You want to see Eris? I thought Liam told you about clapping. You have to clap more, not less. There we go. That's much better. Sorry, guys. You're just not going to get any claps out of this crowd. All right, so our game name is Eris. Eris is a Greek goddess, as Jose told me earlier. It is the Greek goddess of chaos, and when we play the game, you'll see exactly why. All right, so let's start up the game. All right, my name is Jim. I'll be narrating, and Jose will be playing today. All right, so this is the most important thing. This is your core. you're going to be protecting that because if you lose all your core pieces, you lose the game. And we're just going to skip the tutorial really quick because Jose's an expert and knows how to play this game. Alright, the first thing that we see here is the infestation. This is the doorway that the enemies take into the space station. As these things enter the station, there'll be more areas for the enemies to enter and exit. Now, the first enemy that we have here is the retrievers. The one we talked about earlier is like a cannon fire unit. You're going to see a lot of them, and they're not very threatening, but in large groups, they can take a large portion of your course. You'll always have to make sure you mop them up. Now, while we have a little bit of time without chaos, I'm going to talk about the heads-up display that we have on the inside of our helmet. On the upper left-hand corner is the number of core pieces that you have remaining. If that ever reaches 0, you lose the game, so you can't have that happen. On the upper right-hand corner of the screen, we have the amount of time remaining until help arrives. So that's always a very important number to be aware of. Alright, now the second enemy that we have here is the Swarmer. The Swarmer is the one that's going to attack you, but it's not very threatening when it comes straight at you. They're not very smart, but what happens is sometimes they'll spawn behind you and they'll have to catch up to you and attack you from behind. Now, the next piece of the HUD that you're going to be needing to keep track of is the minimap. The minimap will help try to solve these issues. The minimap is very important because it tells you exactly what bugs are in the environment and where they are, and which ones have core pieces, so you can plan your attack around that. The bars on the top and the bottom of the minimap denote the cooldowns for your overcharge and for your impulse. While they're glowing, it means that they're ready and can be used. Alright, Jose, let's show them some sweet things. Why don't you shoot out a window? Because there's going to be a bunch of bugs coming out of that new infestation that just spawned, so let's dispatch them right there. Alright, you just use the impulse wave to push them forward, and after the window opens, we'll suck all the enemies out. Now, like I said earlier, you need to be careful and not be too close, because if you are too close, then you'll also get sucked out. Alright, this new enemy here is the Flyer. The Flyer, like I said earlier, his priority is to take core pieces, but if you get too close, he'll turn around and attack you. But he's also the fastest enemy, so you need to kill him the quickest, because he'll be able to make the round trip the fastest in the environment.
Stolen.
They took the core piece, man. What are you doing?
Core piece.
Alright, the red dots on the map are the enemies, and when they pick up the core pieces, you need to kill them and then run over and pick up the core piece to return it back to your core. If you don't do that after a short duration, it counts as a stolen core piece. So it's very important that you do that. Also, if you shoot the windows out while the enemies are carrying core pieces, they take them with them. So now you can see that he's lost the core piece because an enemy with a core piece got sucked out. It's not a very good idea, Jose. You should know this. Alright, right there he was getting overwhelmed and used the overcharge to dispatch all the enemies because he knows that a big enemy is just about to spawn. The biggest one, the tank. Alright man, you gotta go find that tank. You gotta kill it quickly. It's a good idea to take good care of the tank first because it takes the most amount of core pieces. If 2 tanks leave the station, you lose the game. Right here, Jose picked up one of our special ammo types. These special ammo types will allow you to take down the tank faster. The one that he picked up this time was our incendiary ammo that causes the enemy to bleed and take additional damage. Good job, Jose. Took him out quickly. Alright, so we have a little bit more than 4 minutes left. That means we're a little bit less than halfway through the game. Right now, it's still not that hectic. I know. It looks like it is because there's a lot of things going on, but there's still going to be even more. Alright, Jose, you better watch out in the bottom left lane. There's 2 guys with core pieces. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. There's not too many enemies on the screen. And you're doing a good job of keeping them from stealing core pieces. But you have lost a couple. You're down to 16 now. One of the important things to keep your core health high is because the core overcharge recharges based on how much energy is left in the cores. So the lower it is, the longer it takes to respawn. Oh, Jose, what did you do there? That wasn't part of the script. You weren't supposed to kill yourself. Well... JC, do we have time to do it again? That's not a good answer. Alright, we'll try again. And hopefully he won't shoot out the window like I told him not to. This is why you should listen to me, Jose. Alright, so without repeating myself, some stuff happens and he shoots things. But let's talk about some other stuff. Also, let's talk about the rest of the HUD because I didn't get all the way around. So on the bottom right, you have your current health and your current ammo. This game doesn't have ammo pickups, you never run out of ammo, but there's a limited amount in the clip. So there's some kind of stress involved when you have to reload and you're not able to shoot the enemies. Okay, so, like I said earlier, if you shoot out the windows, it's bad, because you will die. So, it's not a good idea to do that, unless there's just an enemy near it. Alright, so the beginning of the game, like I said, very, very calm, very cool, not a lot of things going on. There's only one enemy in the whole place right now. But soon there will be much more. As the difficulty of the game was a major thing that we had to go back and revise a lot. In the beginning, our game was too hard, and we made some very drastic changes to make it much, much, much easier. And then people were like, oh, it's not even a challenge anymore, why do you bother playing this game? So we had to make some more adjustments. Definitely one of the things that we've adjusted the most is the difficulty of the game, especially with a lot of knobs were tweaked. More than just like the amount of health that the enemy has. Man, you're just gonna get yourself killed again. You gotta be careful. I know you're trying to be fancy, man, but we don't have all day. These people have other things to do. But yes, I was highly involved in the process of. Alright, you're fired. You're done. You're not allowed to do anything anymore. Thank you for watching. Profusely for Jose's apparently inability to play our game. You know how they said you wouldn't be able to beat us? It doesn't look that hard anymore. If you could beat the game, you could beat Jose. Next. Alright, now I'm going to pass it off to our tech lead, Cory, to field any questions you may have, other than Jose's choice of shooting out windows.
Thank you, Jim.
Alright, my first question is, how did you deal with the situation of the player just sitting at the core and defending the whole time if they chose to? What were some strategies you came up with to deal with that?
Yeah, this was a large challenge we ran through throughout the development process, and we implemented multiple ideas to combat that. The first being we added 2 cores. That wasn't our original design plan, and they actually share health. So if you choose to just sit in the center or protect one core, you'll lose quickly. We also implemented towards the end weapon pickups, and we placed those strategically throughout the level, so it would really have the player want to move around to use the environment to their full advantage. Is that your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Hey guys, great game. My question was, besides the BBH that you guys put together, what other optimizations did you do? Your map looks huge.
Yeah, so the question was what other optimizations did we do aside from the BBH, and we did a lot throughout the system. The BBH was one of the biggest technologies that we implemented for optimizations, but we implemented multiple micro optimizations, just made our code as clean and efficient as possible, and that's all we could really do in the end.
Good job, guys.
Hey, I have a kind of a 2-part question. One, I really thought that the particle thing that you guys were talking about, the softening of the particles, looks really cool, and I was curious about the tech behind that and how that's implemented.
Sure, I'm actually going to pass this off to Jose, who implemented that.
Thank you. So your question is, what is the tech behind the soft particles?
Yes.
Well, basically the technique is really simple. There's a lot of ways to implement that, but the way I implemented it is the easiest one. Since we are already using on the pre-render, I already had access to the depth of the objects on the scene. And what I did was in screen space, I compared the depth to the depth on the scene, and then found out the world position of the pixel in the depth scene. And then I compared to the actual world position of the particle, and I smoothed it out depending on the depth of the scene and the particle.
Awesome. Looks great. And
Thanks.
second question. I noticed that you guys had your enemies following paths. So was that predefined paths, or are you calculating those at runtime?
I'm going to pass that to Jeff. He's the one in charge of the enemies.
Thank you, sir. What we have is we have a path planner, and it does it runtime. Well, we have set paths like where they spawn from and stuff, but we determine if they go left or right. However, we also in runtime it's calculated whether, depending on how many enemies are on the set path, they'll either go to the top or to the middle.
Oh, cool. Looks great, guys.
Hey guys, I like the game. Looks good. FPS is a very popular genre in the industry, but not necessarily here at Cloud Project. So did you find it as easy or as difficult for development?
That's a good question. We knew that it would be challenging for some of the things we wanted to accomplish, but I think it turned out about how we planned, and we had a lot of ideas in the beginning that we would use to combat the issues that we would face, and overall I think we handled it pretty well.
So yeah, just going into development, pre-production, you just hit the challenges and then move forward.
That sounds cool. Nice. Thank you. All right, if there's no more questions, thanks for coming and watching Eris.